Hey, my friends, Derek here from Bomb Socks with another day of Bomb Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ, one bite at a time. So it has been a great time talking about Noah this week in preparation for the flood and showing the mercy of God and all of those things. One quote that I came across that I thought was very interesting that I want to kind of build today's episode on, and it is the importance of the need of a modern prophet. Okay, quote from President Benson, Ezra Taft Benson: God's revelations to Adam did not instruct Noah how to build the ark. Noah needed his own revelation. Therefore, the most important prophet, so far as you and I are concerned, is the one living in our day and age, to whom the Lord is currently revealing his will for us. Sometimes we as members of the church, and I say we because we all do it, but people have various reasons why they do this. We will sometimes cherry pick a quote from a prophet years, 150, whatever. We'll cherry pick a quote. It's kind of an isolated quote, and we'll use it to further agendas that we have. And oftentimes, that's why a lot of people will leave the church, because they'll come across a quote that's like, here, this right here, and it's an isolated thing that was said, and it may not even jive with what is being said today. But they'll pick that, and they'll be like, see, the prophet said this back then. And I love what President Benson said, and I'm not trying to devalue what previous prophets have said. I'm not at all. But one thing to remember is the importance of a living prophet and the importance of that congruity as well, and that consonance of that, as having that constant nature of that. So we've got our prophet, President Nelson, right now, who is our prophet on the earth in our day and age. And here he is a modern day Noah. And here's President Nelson saying, hey, everybody, get in the ark now. A flood is coming. So this could be a little thing that you could study with your families. So you can pause the episode here. What are some ways that President Nelson and our other leaders have said this in our day? This idea of get in the ark now, a flood is coming. And so you can go in and you can search, you can study recent conference talks. In fact, I would recommend to you, and again, not to ignore previous prophets, but let's focus on President Nelson right now. What are some things that President Nelson specifically has said? He's been our president of the church now since early 2018. The first conference was April of 2018. Go back and you look through the last, several years of President Nelson being a prophet. What are some things that he said to us that is saying, hey, get in the ark now, a flood is coming? And again, you can go back and you can have some fun with this. And I think there's some very obvious ones that you could see. The idea of the home-centered church, all of those things. So you can go in and do that if you'd like. All I can say, it's a good thing that people are not ignoring him, right? The way that people ignored Noah. And that's why it's so important for us to listen to our current prophet, where he is reminding us, here's a prophet who's seeing afar off, and he's a seer. He's the watchman on the tower, and he can see those things. He's like, guys, there's a flood coming. And because we don't see it, we're always just like, we're good. Nah, we need to be reminded that a prophet is able to do those things. And Noah did it back then. The people ignored him. I pray that we do not ignore our current prophet. Now, the question that I want to pose to you here, that's kind of related to what I just said to you, is, will God ever flood the earth again? So before we get into Genesis, I want to go back to Moses 7 last week, because this is an important principle here. I've heard this referred to as a covenant that God made with Enoch about this. So this is when Enoch saw everything. He saw Noah, he saw the flood, and he's just like, hey, whoa, this is crazy. Verse 49 of Moses 7, when Enoch had heard the earth mourn, he wept, he cried unto the Lord, saying, O Lord, wilt thou not have compassion on the earth? Wilt thou not bless the children of Noah? And it came to pass that Enoch continued his cry unto the Lord, saying, I ask thee, O Lord, in the name of thine only begotten, even Jesus Christ, thou wilt have mercy upon Noah and his seed, that the earth might never more be covered by the floods. And I love this statement. And the Lord could not withhold. And he covenanted with Enoch, and he sware unto him with an oath that he would stay the floods, that he would call upon the children of Noah. So he's not going to flood the earth again. You go to Genesis chapter 9, and it it says the Lord put a bow in the cloud, rainbow is what we call it, and it was a token of the covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass that when I bring a cloud over the earth, and that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant, which again, he kind of referred to that back in Moses 7, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. So the Lord has made this covenant that he's never going to flood the earth again. But it's interesting as you go back to Moses chapter 7 now, and you go, and this is something I referred to last time, and I'm going to take the word flood and we're going to apply it a little differently here. And we talked about this last week, how in verse 62, and righteousness and truth will I cause to sweep the earth as with a flood, to gather out mine elect from the four quarters of the earth, to be able to prepare the people. So the Lord's like, yeah, I'm not going to flood the earth again, but I want you to flood it with righteousness, with the need to gather. And I've referred to this, like I said, many times. Elder Bednar back in 2014, he spoke and asked members of the church to use social media to be able to do that. A little quote from Elder Bednar where he says, I pray that we will not simply participate in a flash flood that rises swiftly and then recedes just as rapidly. I am not suggesting that a one-time glitzy initiative from which we quickly move on to the next task on our lengthy list of gospel things to do. We need not become social media experts or fanatics, and we do not need to spend inordinate amounts of time creating and disseminating elaborate messages. Imagine the impact we can have as hundreds of thousands and millions of members of God's restored church contribute in seemingly small ways to the rising flood waters. May our many small individual efforts produce a steady rainfall of righteousness and truth that gradually swells a multitude of streams and rivers and ultimately becomes a flood that sweeps the earth. So the Lord's not going to flood the earth. We need to be the ones who do it with righteousness and using it to gather. Our prophet today, our prophet in our day and age, President Nelson, has reminded us and invited us many times. And he very well may see storms that are coming. And so what does he ask us to do? He asks us to gather, to share righteousness and to gather. And so that's an important message for you and I today. The Lord's not going to flood the earth, but we need to be the ones who fled the earth. And let's continue to do those things. I hope that helps you out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And thanks for sharing these messages. Go check out our amazing gospel themed socks at bombsocks.com. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Godspeed. Bye-bye.